Have you ever caught yourself thinking, I wish I hadn't said that. I really regret it. I shouldn't have raised my voice. Now I look like the villain, even though I was right. How does someone with no extraordinary qualities manage to climb so high? I was like, or, you know. If you often use these phrases, it's a shame for you. Conversations are a big deal. They can lift you up or pull you down. Look around. People who know how to speak well and use body language effectively always stand out, even if their skills or talents aren't as sharp as yours. Wouldn't you want to stay one step ahead? In this video, we'll share some game-changing tips on how to become a better speaker, inspired by the best-selling book, How to Talk to Anyone. Conversations are connections. Every time you talk to someone, you're building a connection. Whether it gets stronger or weaker depends on how the conversation goes. Every day, we run into countless strangers. The cashier at the grocery store, the Uber driver, the hotel receptionist. Every single conversation is a new opportunity to form a bond. Conversations are everywhere. Just one conversation can turn your life around or completely derail it. They can start wars or bring about peace. Ultimately, conversations define who we are. Every person in your life was once a stranger until you had that first conversation. Before that, you knew nothing about them. But once the conversations began, they either became your friends or foes. Unless you're planning to ditch society and move to a cave, you've got to talk. So let's dive into some simple yet super effective principles together. Let's face it, first impressions matter a lot. When you meet someone for the first time, how you look and act leaves a lasting mark on their memory. That first impression can set the tone for your entire relationship with them. The first thing people notice about you is your face. That's where a great first impression starts. Flashing a warm smile can work wonders in winning someone over. But watch out, people are quick to spot a fake smile. Let your smile build naturally and at its own pace. That way, you'll come across as more authentic and sincere. Studies show that a natural smile is particularly impactful for women. In professional settings, women who take their time with facial expressions are often seen as more trustworthy. Here's a pro tip. Don't give everyone in the group the exact same smile. It can feel a little fake. Instead, personalize your smile for each person you talk to. Eye contact is one of the best ways to connect with people. Keeping steady eye contact builds respect and trust. Want to deepen a relationship? Don't be shy about holding eye contact, even when the other person isn't talking. Just make sure to break eye contact now and then to keep things natural. Now that we've covered facial expressions, let's move on to body language, which plays a huge role in how others perceive you. Body language speaks louder than words. Meeting someone new, don't treat them like a stranger. Here's the key: greet them like you'd greet an old friend. Flash a warm smile and face them fully to show you're all in. But don't overdo it. Too much movement can make people uncomfortable. Keep your hand gestures calm and intentional. Fun fact, studies show that touching your face while you're talking makes you seem less convincing. So, stay cool and keep those hands away from your face. People naturally gravitate toward others who share similar traits, so highlighting what you have in common can go a long way in building connections. You've probably heard the saying, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And it's true, you can use this as a tool to build stronger connections. But don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean you should copy everyone you meet. Notice how the person you're talking to acts. Are they calm and collected, or maybe a bit tense and fidgety? Subtly mirroring their movements can make them feel more at ease around you, sometimes without even realizing it. The same idea works with the words they use. Try picking up on their choice of language or expressions and match them. For instance, if someone says they work at an ad agency, pay attention to whether they call it a company or a firm, and use the same term. Matching their language shows you're tuned in and helps strengthen the connection. Another way to connect better is by swapping out filler words like uh-huh or yeah for responses that show empathy and understanding. When you're talking, you might naturally reply with phrases like yes, exactly, or doesn't matter to show you're listening. But if you really want to stand out, go for responses that show you're fully engaged. For example, saying something like, I see why you made that decision, or that totally makes sense, can make the other person feel truly heard. Here's another pro tip. Use inclusive language. Instead of asking, "What do you think about inflation?" try something like, "How can we tackle inflation together?" That small tweak makes the conversation feel more collaborative. Lastly, develop your sense of humor. Sharing a laugh can create a deeper bond between two people and make your interactions more memorable. Is small talk just meaningless chatter and a waste of time? Nope, not at all. In both your work and personal life, small talk can help you connect with others and build stronger relationships. It's way better than leaving a bad impression. What's the first thing that pops into your head when you're trying to get to know someone? Probably the usual ones, like, "Where are you from?" or "What do you do for a living?" However, these questions often lead to predictable, boring answers. Instead, keep the conversation engaging by sharing detailed and interesting bits of information. For instance, if you're from a small American city like Hannibal, Missouri, you might mention that it's the hometown of the famous author Mark Twain. You could also bring up the yearly Twain festivals held there to celebrate his legacy. Sharing unique details like this will keep the conversation lively and interesting, and you'll notice that questions like, "Where are you from?" might not even come up until much later. Being a good listener and knowing how to get others talking is an important skill too. It may sound counterintuitive, but one of the best ways to be seen as a great conversationalist is by directing attention to the other person. The less you speak and the more room you give them to share their thoughts, the more they'll see you as someone enjoyable to talk to. One great way to keep a conversation going is to pick up on the last thing they said before they paused. Bring it back into the conversation and let them expand on it. This approach can also help you uncover interesting facts about the person you're speaking with. To liven up a conversation, try sharing a story that highlights someone in the group. Just make sure the story is appropriate and doesn't involve anything private or sensitive. When speaking, avoid saying things that might make you look bad. As people get to know one another, they might feel tempted to share personal secrets. But if the other person isn't impressed by you yet, revealing a secret could backfire and make them question what else you might be hiding. Praise is a great thing, isn't it? In theory, yes, but in real life, praise can totally backfire if it feels fake. That's why it's often smarter to give praise indirectly. One effective way to do this is by delivering the praise through a mutual connection. When good feedback is shared by a third party, it often feels more genuine and leaves a stronger impression on the recipient. Many people feel that their efforts go unnoticed, even when they're doing great work. Simply acknowledging their accomplishments with a kind word can brighten their day. The timing of your praise matters too. Compliments hit harder when you give them right away, instead of waiting days or weeks. Public speaking, for example, is a nerve-wracking experience for most people. If a colleague gives a presentation, offering immediate praise, like saying, "You did an amazing job," can mean a lot to them and boost their confidence. For the people you're closest to, you can afford to be more specific with your compliments. If you want to make a meaningful impact on someone special in your life, highlight a particular trait you genuinely admire. It could be their impeccable sense of style, their incredible perseverance, or their undeniable charm. When your compliment is sincere and heartfelt, you can be sure it will be deeply appreciated. Let's talk about something simple yet super important when it comes to relationships: being thoughtful. First, remember that people sometimes need to vent, especially after a rough day. Be patient. Let them share what's on their mind and express how they're feeling. Show that you understand. It'll help them feel more at ease. After they've had their moment, you can gently guide the conversation back to what's on your mind. Second, avoid interrupting conversations or leaving them hanging. For example, let's say your friend is in the middle of telling a story and a waiter comes by to take your order. Once the interruption is over, make sure to turn back to your friend and encourage them to pick up where they left off. Sometimes, the best response is to say nothing at all. For instance, if something awkward happens while you're with someone, the kindest thing you can do is just act like nothing happened and keep the conversation going. Another big part of being thoughtful is learning the art of kindness. Helping someone out feels amazing, but if they ask you to drop everything and help them right away, it can put you in an awkward spot. Avoid putting others in that position too. And when you do someone a favor, don't turn around and ask for something right away. Instead, let them know your kindness is just a gesture of friendship. If you want to ask for something later, give it some time and make sure it's unrelated to the favor you did. That said, it's true, most of us keep a mental score of the good deeds we've done. So don't forget to thank the people who help you out. Let them know you noticed and appreciated their kindness. A simple thank you really goes a long way. If you're a driven employee, chances are you want to stand out, impress your boss, and climb the career ladder. One key strategy is to always maintain a professional appearance and demeanor. First, when speaking with your boss, get to the point quickly and speak directly. Busy people don't have time to listen to someone ramble on endlessly. When thinking about how to deliver news, try to anticipate how the other person might react. For instance, if you think the news will make them happy, share it with a smile. On the other hand, if it's likely to disappoint them, deliver it with a sigh or a tone that reflects the seriousness of the situation. Also, remember that true professionals never ridicule others, embarrass them, or make jokes at their expense. Taking some time to prepare before an important meeting or conversation is always a smart move. First, always make sure you have something meaningful to say. For example, if you're going into a job interview, research the interview panel's resumes and LinkedIn profiles beforehand. Identify their areas of expertise and prepare accordingly. Studies show that people with a richer vocabulary are often seen as more intelligent. So, if you find yourself repeating the same words too often, make an effort to use synonyms instead. You might even jot down a list of alternative words to keep handy. Think of it this way: if you learn one new word every day for 2 months and consistently use it in your conversations, you'll notice a positive shift in how people perceive you. Another great technique is to have a few impactful quotes at your disposal. When you come across a great quote, write it down and memorize it. Dropping the right quote at the perfect moment can leave a lasting impression. I'll never forget a story about a manager who, during an important meeting at the height of the pandemic, began his speech with this famous Stalin quote: "The death of one man is a tragedy, the death of 10 is a drama, the death of 1,000,000 is a statistic." That single line had a profound impact on the audience. Preparation pays off, especially when you tailor it to the people you'll be meeting. If necessary, practice speaking to yourself beforehand, even if no one's watching. Before meeting someone for the first time, you might find yourself wondering, what if we have nothing in common? Or what will we even talk about? Fortunately, starting a good conversation often just requires a soft opening. A tried and true way to spark engagement is to carry a unique item, like an antique pocket watch or something one of a kind, that can act as an icebreaker. This might prompt someone to ask, "Where did you find that?" Before you know it, you'll be chatting like lifelong friends. If you're hosting a gathering where people don't know one another, you can break the ice by introducing each person and sharing 1 or 2 fun facts about them. This way, everyone has a chance to ask follow-up questions and keep the conversation flowing. Once introductions are made and the conversation begins, pay attention to people's behavior. Nobody enjoys being stuck in a conversation with someone who's rambling on with a dull story. Instead, try to match the mood and tone of the people you're engaging with. For instance, if they're smiling and using lively body language, do the same. If the atmosphere feels somber and people are leaning back in their chairs, adjust your demeanor to fit the tone of the moment. Making a memorable entrance is key when walking into a new environment. Sometimes, you just have to be a little bold. Before walking in, take a moment to pause at the door and scan the room. Observe the layout and the people, then smile confidently. Once you've taken it all in, step inside. This small but deliberate action creates a sense of presence and leaves a lasting impression. After entering, take the initiative and approach someone who seems interesting, but ease into the interaction naturally. Pay attention to your hand gestures. Avoid behaviors that might unintentionally come off as aggressive, such as pointing with your index finger. Instead, keep an open and approachable posture, with your palms facing outward to convey friendliness. Listening is key. Make a mental note of the details the other person shares, personal tidbits, preferences, or anything that seems important to them. These notes will come in handy later. For example, referencing one of these details in your next interaction will show that you listened and cared, leaving a lasting positive impression. At the core of it all is mindfulness. By applying just a few techniques, you can create a noticeable difference in how you connect with others. The answer to the question posed at the start of this video, how do some people manage to stand out so much despite lacking qualifications, lies in the techniques we've discussed here. Let's quickly recap the tips we've covered. Visualize positive habits. Picture yourself smiling, making eye contact, and using confident body language before you walk into a room. Visualization is powerful. It works like a self-fulfilling prophecy, setting the stage for a successful interaction. Remember the small details people share about themselves. After a conversation, jot down a few interesting facts about them, perhaps on the back of their business card. The next time you meet, mentioning one or two of these details will impress them and show that you value the connection. Ultimately, show people that they matter, that you hear them, and that you see them. When you do this, relationships will flourish and connections will deepen. Let's wrap up with a beautiful quote from Rumi, the famous Persian poet and philosopher. Raise your words, not your voice. It is rain that grows flowers, not thunder.